VAR strikes at the heart of the Premier League's integrity this weekend, and it seems it's all anybody can talk about. We'll chime in on our thoughts of why this latest incident is such a huge debacle. We'll cover all this and more on today's episode. Grab your scarves. We'll start right now. Welcome into the supporter section. I am Cole Carter, and this is episode 81 of the supporter section podcast. Before we get started, go ahead and leave a like on this video and subscribe if you have not already. We had 5 likes in the last video, so go ahead and do that again. We want your guys' involvement on a new segment here on the supporter section, where you can ask us a question below in the YouTube comments, and we will respond to it in the next episode. It can be about soccer kids, whatever. Ask us anything, and you can be featured in the next episode. Well, guys, I am joined by Brandon Pasek and Stephen Curl, my 2 best friends, and it's good to have everybody back in one place. Guys, how are we doing? Stephen, I'll start with you.
Oh my God, I said it before the podcast, and I'll say it again right now. There is no place in the world I would rather be right now than in this room, recording this podcast with you 2 fellas right there. I can't wait to get into it.
I love it, and I just want to make a quick comment. I love your scarves in the background. You're doing a great job making the room look great.
The production value in this room has, gone skyrocketed. Yes, thank you for noticing. Thank you for the fans out there.
And Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing well. I think I'm dealing with some allergies again. I was a couple weeks ago. Last week was totally fine, and this week my throat's scratchy, all of that. Also, sorry about last week. We had some technical difficulties getting an episode out, so we missed last week. Sorry, but we're here this week, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, appreciate you guys sticking out with us. I'll get our first segment going with what you wearing. Brandon, back to you. What are you rocking? A little throwback jersey there.
Little throwback Aston Villa kit Reebok. You don't really see that often, do you? But it's from the year of my birth, 97-98 Aston Villa. I don't know if I could tell you anybody that played on the team. Had to do some research on that. But it's great. Has these poofy sleeves. And actually, I got it in Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, what year was that?
Thrift store in 2020. It was 2020.
Yeah. Wow.
That place burnt down, didn't it?
It got hit by the tornado, yeah. I don't know if they came back around, but unfortunately did get hit by a tornado. But
Rip.
Got the jersey from there. It's an amazing jersey. Wear it all the time.
Is that sponsor sewn, or is that the bubble lettering? Looks like the bubble lettering.
It's the bubble lettering, yeah. Sort of interesting.
I've always enjoyed that look on
shirts
shirts
and
and jerseys.
Computer is, but before my time.
Yeah. Steve, what do you got on?
Oh, I got a nice 2017-2018 Tottenham Hotspur home kit. The first year Nike sponsored us on the go around to get. Yes, the first year. Love the badge. The badge kissing was phenomenal that year. But it's actually I had the shoulder pad kit from the year before. But I bought it in a market in Thailand, and it was probably worth $3. So this is the first expensive. This is a replica kit, but over $60 jersey that I spent for Tottenham Hotspur. So a special place in my heart for the jersey for sure.
And I will say I'm very jealous as a Tottenham kit collector at this point. That's the one Nike year I don't have any of them from. So I'm very jealous. They're very, very rare, hard to come by. I was just telling the boys that I tried getting one recently. Sold out right before I can get my hands on it. So I want to add that to my collection. I have last season's home kit, the 2022-23 home kit. It's got the neon touches to it. Obviously, an interesting season for Tottenham, one of our worst in recent memory. However, I do enjoy the details. I like the neon. I love the texture of the jersey. The Authentics this past year had a really nice feel to them. And the sizes also finally kind of normalized. They weren't weird sizing like Nike's done in the past. So, anywho, love to see the boys getting the jerseys on, always having something different to wear. But we're going to move on to our next one. We didn't have any support section questions. We'd love for you guys to send that in so we can get you guys in on the podcast next week. But our golden scarf is the person, team, or thing that we think deserves some praise from the previous week of games. And Brandon, you're going to get kicked off on this one as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some homer shouts this week, but Aston Villa battered Brighton 6-1 at the weekend at home. Ollie Watkins scored a hat trick, which he needs some goals. I think he's on 4 on the season now, scoring in back-to-back weeks, I think. Douglas Luiz has now scored in 5 straight home games. I really hope Man City don't come back in for him because he's really one of the best midfielders in the world. He's so good. And that actually puts us 5th in the league with 5 wins from the first 7 games. If you told me at the beginning of the season, if we'd had 5 wins from the first 7 games, I would have snapped your hand off. So I'm taking that. I believe it's also 10 straight home wins in the Premier League for Villa. So keeping that rolling. We're going to talk later and get your thoughts on, is Villa Park a fortress? We'll see. But I'm loving it.
And I will continue the hometown trend. I'm giving my golden scarf to Ange Postecoglou, Tottenham's new manager, who in his collective time as manager recently has now gone 51 matches unbeaten at home as a manager. He's also led Tottenham to their best league start in their history. Inevitably, Spurs will falter, but for the time being, as I mentioned, last season was very rough. N17 is loving Big Ange instead. Steven, who do you have for your golden scarf this week?
Yes, I'm showing some love to another London team, that being Crystal Palace, getting a surprising 3 points away at Old Trafford. An absolute banger of a goal coming from Joaquin Anderson off a set piece. This happens to players all the time. The ball kind of falls to him, kind of on the edge of the box, and he just hammers it home. It was pure class. It was amazing. In the 25th minute, and that would be the goal that separated the two sides. Again, doing it away at Old Trafford, huge win for Crystal Palace. Golden Scarf going to Joaquin Anderson for me.
Yeah, big one for Crystal Palace. Good shot there, Steve. I love it. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into the Premier League, our Match Week 7 review of everything that went down. Everton and Luton Town, their first ever matchup in the Premier League. And Brandon, this one was a little bit interesting for Luton.
Yeah, Luton was able to get on the score sheet first from a tackle in the box from Tom Lockyer, the defender. He went to block a clearance from was it Ashley? I think it was Ashley Young. And actually, Ashley Young kicked it into him and it deflected in the 24th minute. So that's how they got their first goal. Sort of weird. You don't really see that often, but it happened. Then from a set piece, not too much long later, in the 31st minute, Carlton Morris, their goal scorer, I think he came in 3rd last year in the Golden Boot race in the championship, scored from a great back post cross on a set piece. One time. Really, really beautiful. Definitely a striker's finish. It was really great to see. So they went up 2-0 in the game. And then, but 10 minutes later, Calvert-Lewin was able to score a scrappy goal in the 41st minute. And then after that, guys, there was literally nothing. Go back and watch the highlights. It's literally the first 7 minutes of the highlights of the first half, and then they skip to the 100th minute or whatever when the game was ending. Seems about right for these two teams, though.
Yeah, I think there's pretty low expectations on both of these sides, but post-game, boos ringing out kind of deservingly, we think, for Everton's performance. They had a decent start with 2 wins in a week, but what does this performance say about this Everton team, Brandon?
They're just really inconsistent, and they're going to be down there all year. I think we know this. We love Dice here on the podcast, but that team is not good. Not good at all. And the fact that they're losing to Luton at home, especially after coming off of 2 wins, one in the Carabao Cup, one in the Premier League, not really great. Not really great. You should be beating Luton at home 100% of the time. So I don't know if Dyche is on any sort of hot seat because I don't know if they have enough money. I mean, they did just get taken over, but I would be paying attention to Everton because their new owners are not going to want them to go down. So if they don't start playing a little bit more consistently, watch out for that.
And Stephen, for Luton Town, their first win, 4 points. They're now in 17th place out of relegation zone. How should Luton fans be feeling after this away win in a place like Goodison Park?
I mean, absolutely electric. It's one thing to win in the Premier League, especially a side that's been promoted as rapidly as Luton. And then it's another thing to go and do it away at Goodison Park. Although the name has been diminished over the past few seasons, historic English club, we've talked about it last season on our pod, that Everton has been relegated. That's since Premier League has come into formation, they have not been relegated. So the win still means a lot for this team. So they're going to look on it. They made 4 points on the season. They're in 17th. They're safe right now. And again, incredibly early in the season, but they've even had some closer games earlier on to which they've lost by a goal or 2. They haven't been getting blown out Like I'll say, most Sky Sports, like most media thought it was be like 4-0, 3-0, 5-0. Luton, I mean, they're still losing, absolutely. But when you're in a relegation battle before the season even starts, you're going to take these bits and you're going to find positive moments from it. Let alone winning away at Goodison Park. They got to feel electric. The season is very long. They're still most likely going to go down, but it's moments like these to where if they can build on a point on their next outing against Tottenham, which I'm sorry, I love Spurs, obviously. Possible, very possible. Coming off a flat performance against Liverpool, who knows? So, yeah, if I'm a Luton fan, I'm smiling. I'm safe right now. I'm in the Premier League next season. So it's just, you got to take these moments for what they are and, take it positive.
Yeah, I mean, any bright spot is a good thing for them, and obviously being out of the relegation zone, if they can just keep pace, if it's a draw here and there, it's gonna be a scrap at the bottom. You look at teams like Burnley, Bournemouth, and Sheffield at this point. I mean, it's gonna be a real scrap for relegation this year, and I think in some ways Luton have to look at themselves and say we're already have a bit of a head start, particularly with Burnley and Sheffield. They'll only have 1 point out of what 7 games at this point. So yeah, Bournemouth will be the pacemakers for them if Bournemouth can scrap away a win, which we've seen them do in the past. It's not impossible for them. I think those two teams will be looking at each other as the main competitors this season. But Brandon, Villa did some awesome things this week. They won 6-1 against Brighton. I would say a fairly surprising result considering that Brighton has pretty high expectations for themselves. Villa now has won the last 5 matchups between these two teams. But how was it all done?
Yeah, it was 3-0 at halftime. Two from Ollie Watkins, like I mentioned earlier, and a Estupinian own goal. Ansu Fati did score right after the second half in the 50th minute. So it was 3-1 at one point. And that's sort of like a knife edge. You know how Brighton can quickly turn a game on its head. They can score at will, it seems like sometimes. So when the game was at 3-1, even as a fan, I was like, I'm not super comfortable, but Watkins did come in with the hat trick goal in that third in the 65th minute. Eventually, substitute Jacob Ramsey, he's coming off of injury, scored in the 85th minute, and then, like I mentioned earlier, Douglas Luiz sealed it in the 97th minute, making it 6-1.
Very, very crazy result. That's 10 Premier League wins in a row for Villa. And Steven, I'll push this your way before we can give Brandon the chance for him to say it. Is Villa Park now becoming a bit of a Premier League fortress under Unai Emery?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I look at Villa and I honestly, just being a Tottenham fan, I go, that's where I want to be with Postecoglou next season. It's the new manager that's come in, clearly gotten his message conveyed to the team of how they want to play football. And they're going to lose games, sure. Like Villa's going to lose sometimes, but they're also going to come out and play that creative freestyle flow. Like they looked incredible against Brighton. And they're a complete team in my opinion. And so, especially at home, like they've had their troubles on the road 100%, and they need to work on that. But listen, you come to Villa Park, historically massive club in England. Let that not be lost. Brandon will always remind you. But yeah, this is a huge team. Like, I love Tottenham, but like Villa Park, Birmingham, like they have. I mean, it's up there. It's been some time since they've been in the spotlight, but I absolutely believe that Villa is right up there this season and challenging for a Champions League spot. They proved it last year, taking down some massive teams. So yes, I would be scared as a Tottenham fan going to Villa Park. Absolutely.
So, Brandon, in your eyes, what makes Villa Park a fortress to come to play at?
Yeah, it's a different type of fortress, and I would probably lean to say it's not a fortress. I think in a way, though, the team mentality, like, it's very hard to beat the team Aston Villa at home, at Villa Park. I don't think, like, the crowd really has much to do with it, if I'm being all honest. And I'm not ragging on the crowd, but the crowd it's not a St. James, right? It's not a Goodison Park. It's not even, well, it's definitely better than Anfield. Yeah, it's just not one of those where, like, the crowd is like this 12th man, right? It's not one of those. It can be loud. It does get very loud. Also, the ground itself. If you've never looked up pictures of Villa Park, go look it up right now. Pause this video and tab over because The park is an old, historic English ground. They're still preserving it. They have these massive steps up into the stadium. It's really amazing. So I'd actually probably lean no, it's not a fortress, but the team that we've put together is unreal. And Unai Emery's at the helm. Whatever he says goes, and he's just proving everybody wrong. He had a lot of haters coming back into the Premier League after his Arsenal stint. It's just been a really fun ride. I mean, if you were with us last season, you got all that energy from me towards the end of the season, and I'm here again. But it's even more. It's real now. Sort of like what Steven was saying. This Villa team is pretty complete. They're not to the level of a Liverpool, Man City, whatever, but we have 2 players for every position and like competing players at that. It's a great place to be in, especially with being in a European competition, which we'll talk about later. I love this Villa team, and I think they're very hard to beat at home.
Yeah, I love all those points. And if you guys want to support Brandon in his efforts to get to Villa Park, please do donate to the GoFundMe down below. No, we we want to get him out there at some point. I'm dreaming of a trip together.
Yeah,
I want to make
absolutely.
it happen. But in an impressive feat for Villa, we'll see how long this lasts if they can continue to get 11 Premier League wins in a row. But 6-1 against Brighton is certainly a convincing result that they are here to stay this season under Unai Emery. Well, the talk of the town is revolving around Tottenham and Liverpool. This one ended in a 2-1 result. And you probably remember the last matchup ended up with a crazy result as well, where Charleston, the old Everton man, scoring a last-minute goal to tie the match against Liverpool. But then just moments later, Lucas Moura playing an out-of-position right back at the time with a turnover a minute later gave Jota a goal for the Liverpool win. But this game was not without its own controversy and last-minute drama either. First of all, we'll get started with this red card incident involving Curtis Jones. Him and Yves Bissouma going for a 50-50 ball. Curtis Jones' foot rolling over the top of the ball into the ankle area, the shin of Yves Bissouma. Looking rough when you slow it down, but guys, was this a convincing straight red card for Curtis Jones, Steven?
Yes, it was. Whether it was on purpose or not, guess what? Doesn't matter when you're giving out red cards in the Premier League or in soccer in general. It was a red card. Did the still image look bad? Yes. Was Basuma's leg literally bent from the challenge a little bit? Yes. Like it was a red card. I won't exasperate too much on it. But yes, it was a red card. Definitely the foot hit over the ball, slid into Basuma. Unfortunate. Not intentional. Curtis Jones, nice lad. We play Fortnite together. But no, it was a red card, though.
Brandon, does intent matter when giving out a red card? Is it just straight up dangerous play, you're out of the game?
Intent can definitely matter, but is not the end-all, be-all. This is definitely a red card. I don't know why there's so much talk about it. He does slip over the ball, but he stamps into Basuma. Obviously by accident, we know that, but the stamp and like up like midway on his leg, like almost in his calf, like that's just not good. And we actually saw this, and the only reason I know this is because I watched Villa 2 weeks ago against Chelsea. Milo Gusto got a red card for a very similar tackle on Luka Dean. At first glance, you're probably like, oh, that's not a red card, it's a yellow, whatever. VAR came in, gave him a red. I think rightly so. Very similar situation here. It's a red card.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that does not get Liverpool off on the right foot. I want to say that was in the 29th minute when that happened. So you go down to 10 men early on in the game. Obviously, you're thinking a Tottenham fan, they'll go on the attack, start to press more and more. But things really didn't do too much. Luis Diaz, we thought, got off on the right foot from a Mo Salah assist. This is where the drama begins on the day for really much of the game. With Liverpool reduced down to 10 men, the score at 0-0 in the first half. Luis Diaz scored the goal, quickly ruled, though, for offsides on the live view with the sideline referee. But only 8 seconds into a review, the VAR assistant says that is no goal. Well, that was an interesting mistake because after the game, the professional game match officials limited body admitted that a significant error was made in that decision to not award the goal. Now, this would end up obviously being a costly mistake for Liverpool because the game ended 2-1 and they had down to 9 men at that point. with a Joel Matip own goal with seconds to play. So let's dive into this whole offside incident. First of all, get your opinions on this. Should we have any sympathy for these referees in the moment for letting things slip away like this, or should the standard just be so high that nothing like this could ever happen, Steven?
No, yeah, like there's not even an opinion. Like it was a goal. Luis Diaz scored against Tottenham. Like we're two Tottenham guys. Opinion doesn't matter. There's fact and just whatever the referees were doing. I mean, I'll 100% missed it. They missed the most egregious call that I can remember for quite some time. It was on. He was onside. Um, yeah, I'll make this really quick, but it just takes drawing lines. The thing that struck me so wildly was how quickly they made the decision to uphold the goal. I was so confused. I was watching the game. I was like, okay, he scored. I saw the first take of the replay, and I was like, okay, like it was a goal. But they like, as soon as I processed that thought, they said, all right, yeah, like the call in the field was offsides with the flag raised. It said call stands, offsides goal. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. Tottenham fan, obviously, sure, happy that we won the game, but like it was an error. It's bad. It's bad for football. Like I knew it was going to be a chaos after the game, but yeah, no sympathy for the referees at all. That's why you have so many eyes, cameras. It's the most expensive league in the world. You have 20 seconds of a soapbox. Here we go. You have all these other leagues, Spanish, Germany, Italy, complaining about all the money that's in the Premier League. It's the most watched league in the world. And you miss a call of whether it's a goal or not. When it's offsides or yes and no. It's black and white. Draw the lines, however many lines you want to draw. He was on sides. It wasn't even close how much he was on sides, Luis Diaz, that is. And it was a great goal. And it sucks that it didn't count. You know, it could have been a more thriller of a game. Who knows for the neutral. So it's really unfortunate, honestly, just for like the soccer, like the pure soccer fan who was watching that matchup of Tottenham versus Liverpool.
Brandon, obviously, we just talked about how quick it was. Where and what do you think went wrong with this decision?
Well, I'll tell you what went wrong because they sort of explained it in their statement. The VAR referee thought that the on-field referee had given it as a goal. So that's why the review was so short, because the VAR referee was like, oh yeah, of course that's a goal. He's onside. Check, thumbs up. So when it said, when a VAR confirms the on-field call, he thought it was a goal. What? I was watching the game. I saw the flag go up. I heard the whistle call it back. What was this guy sitting in a booth, wherever they sit, watching? He must have not been watching. Like, he must have been having a conversation and be like, oh, the buzzer's going off. Let me go look. Oh, yeah, that's a goal. Like, I don't know what in the world that person would have missed, but significant human error, I think, is might be a nice way to say, how bad that is.
That's an understatement for sure.
Yeah, it's a massive understatement. I just can't get my mind around it. And then the fact that like they couldn't even go back once the ball was played and say, hey, actually, it was a goal. Like, could the referee not just blow the whistle at that point and be like, beep, that was a goal, it's 1-0. Like, I don't know I don't know the rules around that, but then they try to hide it, right? Not showing the replay, not talking about it on the broadcast, all this stuff. You're like, what in the world? Very, very confusing. One of the worst calls, excuse me, other than the Aston Villa Sheffield call where the goal line technology didn't work. Hawkeye, I think it's called. But with that makes sense. All the angles were blocked by players. The technology didn't work. So you can understand that, right? This, there's no understanding. We'll be mad forever. Like, there's just no understanding. And they're not going to get points back. Nothing's going to happen. What do you think, Cole?
I mean, from what I understand, I think there's 4 VAR officials that kind of sit together, if I'm not mistaken. So there was plenty of accountability in this room to say, hey, this is a goal. And maybe it's the wording. Maybe the language that they're using is just not straightforward enough to say just check complete versus goal given, something like that. That's the only thing I can just. It's just like, what are we doing? That's just like the process of how we do these checks. But it's just, it's inexcusable. There's no one, including myself, there's no one that's saying it's not a goal. Like, it should be a goal by every measure of centimeters, feet. Like, he was onside, clear as day. That is factual information, and that's what everyone has said. to think 6 years ago that, something like this in live action wouldn't have counted. They would be debating afterwards, oh, we need VAR, whatever, to intervene and check it and make it work. But that shouldn't be the debate anymore. It should be factual and say, hey, goal or no goal, and that's how it is. And it's just so insane that we even can have this discussion. Human error happens, that's fine, but VAR is supposed to take that element out of the game to allow decisions to be correctly made 100% of the time. And that's just crazy that this hasn't happened. Obviously, the tension from the game continued. Liverpool fans, Jurgen Klopp, everyone has come out afterwards just furious that Simon Hooper had wrongly gave the goal. Liverpool came out with a statement saying that we fully accept the pressures that match officials work under, but these pressures are supposed to be alleviated, not exasperated, by the existence and implementation of VAR. It is therefore unsatisfactory that sufficient time was not afforded to allow the correct decision, that's an important part, to be made, and that there was no subsequent intervention. That such failings have already been categorized as significant human errors, also unacceptable. Any and all outcomes should be established only by the review and with full transparency. This is vital for the reliability of future decision making as it applies to all clubs, with learnings being used to make improvements to processes in order to ensure this kind of situation cannot occur again. In the meantime, we will explore the range of options available, given the clear need for escalation and resolution. I want to land on that last sentence there. We will explore the range of options available, given the clear need for escalation and resolution. Brandon, what kind of options would they think they'd be talking about there?
I don't really know. I think that gets really hairy when you have these teams going against the league. One team going against the full league, I don't know if that's a great look, but if all the teams sort of came together, because they do this, they have 20 team meetings. They do this, and if they all come together and they're like, it's just really not working, it's not. I don't know. I think that is probably the better route for Liverpool to go, but they're within their own rights to probably go to the Premier League and be like, comes to the end of the season, they finish fifth because of a point or goal differential or something. Who knows? The difference between Europa League and Champions League is a lot. It's a lot. We all know the money, and that's really what these owners care about. I will not be surprised if maybe we don't hear about this immediately, but come the end of the season, there's something put in place. I don't know if it's a lawsuit or I don't know what they can do. I know there's a sporting court of law, isn't there, something like that? It seems like that's the route that they're going to go, though, and I would love to see it play out because I'm here for it.
But Steven, this is not obviously the first time we've had egregious calls made, VAR incidents. Is it really that big of a deal compared to other instances that we've seen chaos kind of created, especially in the Premier League? Is this really that unique of a case with Liverpool?
I mean, yeah. I feel like Brandon's my VAR guy over here, right? Like, I feel like we talk about VAR all the time. There's just no one knows what to expect, whether it's the handball rule or it's Tottenham Man City in the Champions League, and City fans are still upset about the Llorente goal, or whether it's just rinse repeat. I don't know. It's not surprising. It's unfortunate. I don't know honestly where I stand with VAR. I think it's a good thing to have, obviously, because there's a lot of human error on the field. And we haven't even got to the rest of the human error that was on the field from this referee as well. I'm sure Liverpool fans are just they're popping blood vessels again, just remembering it all. But yeah, I mean, with that question, that's just VAR sucks. I don't know how to fix it. But I know one thing, if us three were in a room that day, even two Tottenham fans, we'd be like, yeah, that was a hell of a finish by Luis Diaz. That was a goal. That was an amazing goal by Luis Diaz. That was awesome.
So, Brandon, how do we fix this situation? How do we fix VAR? What needs to happen to come out of this game?
Yeah. So, I don't know if you guys follow James Lawrence Alcott. I think I've sent him to you before. But he was sort of coming up with this thing where he was saying, we can complain about it all we want, but we need to come up with a solution, right? So I was like, okay, that's a good thought. Let me see if I can come up with something. And we've talked about this before. One, scrap VAR, go back to old school. Not going to happen, right? That's not going to happen. They've already invested way too much money into this. Two, similar to how the NFL does it, where they have one body that reviews any and all VAR decisions. I don't know exactly how that would work. The logistics might get a little hairy, but that could be it, right? Also, one thing I do want to say as well is like the language around the clear and obvious thing needs to go into the trash because what they're and this is also a reminder to us fans is that VAR intervenes when there's a clear and obvious error made. So that's obviously very, very subjective. It's not to get calls right on the field. It's not to change calls. It's to change calls that should be like are clear and obviously wrong, right? So there's like a weird line there too. So I hate that. I absolutely hate that. VAR should be there to implement the correct call every single time. Big calls. I don't even know how you'd categorize that. I'm talking myself into a hole. Anywho, it's not my favorite thing. You know, you have the on-field referees. It goes to a VAR booth in New York or whatever, and they make a decision, and that decision is final. You could deal with that, right? But if it's the same consistent VAR referees every week, they know the book, they know whatever. You know, whatever they say goes, and that sort of like a governing body that just sort of works, could work. Now, the one I think is my favorite is the on-field referee gets the final say. So you know how when the on-field referee goes to the VAR monitor, they almost always change the call, right? I think VAR should intervene and say, hey, I think you might want to have a second look at this. That's all they say, something like that, and the VAR ref, or I mean the on-field ref goes and looks at it, and that referee who is in the middle of the game for 90, now it's like 120 minutes, can make the decision on the field. And then it's sort of like a mix of old school and new school. I think that's a very easy fix. Might not be the best fix, but I think people could live with that, right? The referee saw it in full speed at one moment. He went back, saw it in slow motion, saw it in full motion on the TV, still kept his call. Or was like, hey, I'm completely wrong. But it's that person's decision, you know, instead of somebody far, far away. There's a lot of ways to do it, I think, but that's probably my favorite. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
It's hard. I mean, obviously, I think, you know, we've seen the different systems in America. MLB, you have everyone in whatever Scranton or whatever it is, or somewhere in New York, and then NFL sort of similar thing. I think they're so close to having it right how it is now. It's just that they just need to just be less afraid to do the right thing instead of trying to protect each other. And that was actually a question I was going to ask you guys is has this now compromised the integrity of the Premier League? Because we just talked about a couple weeks ago from the thing last year, the whole Chelsea-Tottenham incident with Christian Romero and Cucurella with the hair pulling incident, that they came back a whole year later and said, yeah, that should have been a red card incident, but we're trying to protect each other by basically saying it was like the wrong call and all that different stuff. So that's come out into the public now. And this is now an incident where someone made a mistake and probably less than 10 seconds later, I'm sure in their head they're thinking, oh no, that was supposed to be a goal, but now we've already done it. We have to look like we were high and mighty and did the right thing initially, that we can't go back and do the right thing. I think the bigger thing now is that can we even trust these decisions being made, or is there a compromise to the integrity of the league, Steven? What do you think?
I mean, if you want my honest answer, let's be real. Soccer's probably one of the most corrupt sports there is in the world. And we all know that. Like, we know FIFA's terrible, right? Like, it's no surprise. At the same time, though, it's like, it should be about getting the right call in the field. Like, Didier Drogba was singing against Barcelona in the Champions League. Like, these things just kind of happen where it's like, what the hell? Like, refs are bought off. Like, these things just happen. It's football. It's the most popular game in the world. It's going to happen. I'm not saying that's what happened in this game, obviously. But I don't think I think that's big. I think that's big what you're asking, the integrity of the Premier League. I think the reason why the Premier League is the most popular league in the world, talent obviously, but all the eyes are on it. I don't think the integrity is in question. I think that's just like a big leap. I think there's issues. I think there's issues that need to be resolved and things that need to be talked about and brought into light. Maybe they need to have, like Brandon was talking about, these 20 club meetings of hey, this isn't working, this is working. Maybe you make it a midway season point. Like I don't know. You build more structure and communication with the teams in the league and the Premier League and get more conversations going. But to to throw the integrity of the Premier League out, it's like outside of the original bias in soccer, like crazy things happen. I mean, I still think the integrity is intact. Like, what the integrity of FFP and Man City winning all the trophies that they have, and Todd Bowley. Like, when you talk about integrity, it's just kind of like, to me, at least, it's a loaded question. When you can see it on the field, in the Premier League, it's like, okay. I mean, it just kind of depends where you want to draw the line at integrity. But with VAR, I still think we're on like the safe side. Like everyone, I think in general has an understanding. You could get screwed. This could be your week to get screwed.
That's fair,
Yeah,
Brandon.
I think we can move on from this, but I think it's VAR has been really bad this year for some reason. Like, just maybe the worst it's ever been since like the first year it was implemented. So something's happened. I don't know what it is, but something's happened, and it's just been really, really bad. Um, I agree with you, Steve. I don't think it undermines the integrity of the league. I think it's just making it worse. Like it's making it
Yeah,
hard to watch.
yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of English people because they go to the games and it's a part of their their life. Like way deeper than anything is here, and like they're just like it's just not fun. I can't celebrate after a goal. I don't know. I'm pissed off at the ref and VAR. It's ruining it for a lot of them, which sort of sucks to hear because I'm enjoying it and it's not, in my blood. But like if it was, I'd be so pissed. Another thing I want to mention is that we have to remember that a lot of calls in soccer, like handball especially, are very subjective. Fouls are very subjective. And so that's why I think the on-field referee, the person that's refereeing the game, should have the final say. I think that helps my point. And I think, again, people could understand, right? People could understand that referee for that day made that decision, and that is what it is. It's never going to be perfect, right? VAR is never going to be perfect. Do you want robot umps? Probably not. Maybe in baseball, but not in soccer. I just don't know if there's like a 100% yes answer. I don't know.
And real quick, the thing is what's so disappointing about this game is that it was onside offside. That's black and white. And
Yeah, it's black and white.
that's the Liverpool those are the Liverpool fans screaming right now. It's like red card, whatever. Like the two yellows on Jota, whatever. But it's like it was a goal and then it wasn't. So, yeah. At
Yep.
least get that right.
Yep.
That should be at minimum the basement for VAR is to be able to call. It's like Ted Lasso out there. It's like what's onside? What's offside? Like you need to be able to get an onside offside call correctly in a potential top 4 matchup game of the week.
100%. I am right there with you. To finish off the game, Richarlison getting the assist for Sonny to get his 6th goal of the season and smooth goal in the 36th minute. Gakpo answering at the half. I think he went off injured. I haven't heard any updates on his status right now, if he actually hurt himself pretty bad or not. And then Jota getting the 2 yellows in the 69th minute to go off with red. So Liverpool went down to 9 men, but they did look like they were going to hold on the draw. And of course, in the 96th minute, Joel Matip with the unfortunate own goal. Tottenham's best performer from 2 seasons ago, own goal, back at it again for Spurs. Just quickly, one-word answers. Which team had the better game overall, Brandon?
I thought Liverpool could go in there and smack Tottenham around. Tottenham held their own. Liverpool. Sorry, that wasn't one answer. One word.
Steve.
Neither.
Okay. And then the last one from this one is the kind of the fun question to make me either feel better about myself or to get fuming a little bit. Steven, is it time to have a conversation about Tottenham being in a title contention race?
Oh, yes, the beautiful relationship we have on this podcast, Cole, you and I. No, Tottenham is not a contender, not at all. We're no stranger to starting off hot, so keep your heads, just focus on the football you're playing. I swear to God, don't do shit differently. But no, we are not contenders, okay? Let's finish in the top 6, please. So, yeah, focus on Postecoglou ball, nothing else.
Brandon, are you ready to have a title conversation with Tottenham?
I want to.
I'm
Could they
not.
do it? Hey, could they? I don't know. Maybe. They couldn't they? They couldn't.
Your ass said
See,
that.
here's the thing. Cole thinks they are. So I want to hear Cole's take.
Cole,
At
don't
this
do
point,
this.
why not?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. They're gonna
Here's the
lose in
thing.
the FA Cup, and they're gonna win a trophy this year, like I said. So it could be the Premier League title. Who
We
knows?
are
Here's the
we.
thing.
Go ahead.
We all know Man City's gonna win the Premier League. We know it's gonna happen. I'm just saying that the way that they might stick around,
Do you think we're two?
it's gonna be hard. Listen, you look at the table right now. You have Man City, Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, and then Brighton, all within 3 points of each other. It's going to be a tight race. I don't know. We had this conversation of Newcastle can handle having Champions League and the Premier League. West Ham, I don't know if they're overperforming or what they're going to look like. Realistically, Man U and Chelsea look like freaking dog crap right now. So the conversation is, I think, for top four is realistic for Tottenham. I'm going to say that. I think top four is attainable. However, us and Arsenal right now, on-field performance, I don't think we look too far apart from one another. I think we are lucky that we got a win this week. I think the late drama we've had certainly speaks to room for growth. But James Maddison, Sonny have been clicking on all the right cylinders. I think Vanavan and Romero are going to be good defensively. The question marks always will be our right back situation and the health of our players, specifically in the midfield. If Sarr and Basuma can continue to have a good playmaking pairing, I don't see why we can't be lingering around come March. I think March will be the telltale sign of what we look like, and that's where I land.
I think you're right. I agree with you.
And that's the last thing I'll say. In March, when Conte left Tottenham, we were in the top four. We were in the race for it, and then he just had his crazy outburst, and then we fell out of European competition completely. So March is really, I think, the time where we kind of fall apart and see our true colors. But as long as everyone's healthy, I see Postecoglou ball working. And if it doesn't, we've already set the standard for, it's just Tottenham under Postecoglou, which is what we expected. So title conversation, I think Man City is going to run away with it. But I think we might be lingering second or third come March. But we'll see. We will see. Let's move on from match week 7 to match week 8. Looking at some of the games to look forward to, Burnley and Chelsea. Burnley hasn't beat Chelsea since 2017. Since then, Chelsea's won 7 and drawn 2 with a combined score 25-6. And their last matchup was in 2022 that looked like a 4-0 Chelsea win. Burnley is still looking for their first win of the campaign. Seems like a pretty good opportunity against a struggling Chelsea side, although they did get a win over Fulham as we recorded today. Brandon, can Burnley get it done against Chelsea?
I think they can. Chelsea's not great. Burnley need to pick up points somewhere. I think this is a really good opportunity at home at Turf Moor to get some points, at least get a point. Chelsea's there to be got at, and I think everybody knows that. Every team in the Premier League knows that. And they're going to give it a good go. I think they can win this game. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility.
And speaking of, I just want to poke fun at Chelsea. I'm sure that they will be having discussions about FFP with their new jersey sponsor, Infinite Athlete, just seemingly coming out of nowhere and giving them tens of millions of dollars. I'm sure it won't come back to bite them in the butt sometime soon. Steven, any chance Burnley can get points in this game?
Points, yes. A win. I think you might be dreaming a little bit, but maybe not at home. Potentially. I think it'd be a point for Burnley. I still fancy Chelsea. I mean, come on. They got to score goals eventually, right? They did win today against Fulham, who's conceded more goals than Luton Town. I don't know what that means. But no, I fancy Burnley to hunker in at home and lock down Premier League threat Nicholas Jackson to not score a goal.
All right, boys. Everton-Bournemouth is one of those big games that could prove to be a big point swing come towards the end of the season. Both these teams struggling early on, obviously in the relegation, below the relegation line. They split the matchups last year with the home team winning both of those games. But the real question is here, do Dyche and the boys lose 2 in a row relegation rivals, Steven?
I I just don't. Bournemouth has not had a win yet on the season, and I don't know if they're going to start now. Um, Everton coming off that loss against Luton. Everton is at home again. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe. Yeah. Yes, they are. They are at home. Um, yeah. Tyler Adams out for Bournemouth, which is a huge that's a huge piece of Bournemouth's team. I Everton's going to get a win. Doucouré is going to get a goal. It's going to be Doucouré or Calvert-Lewin scoring all the goals for the Toffees this year. But I think Everton can get it done.
Let's just say Everton get it done, Brandon. Does Ariola, who came in the preseason, obviously he's not got on the ground running quite yet, could he be on the hot seat here with a loss?
I think so. I really do think
Yeah.
so. He replaced who is now Wolves manager Gary O'Neill, who just got a big win this past weekend against Manchester City. Crazy. Um, yeah, I think the owners might start, really, really start thinking about it because it'll get close to Christmas time, and if they are still down there in the bottom three or the bottom four, I think they will make a change. Iriola's a really good manager from all things considered. I think he came from Rayo Vallecano or something like that. And honestly has Bournemouth playing pretty good football. But they just can't get points. They can't get a win. I think they could definitely beat Everton. I think they're better than them. But they have to get points. That's really the name of the game in the Premier League. You got to get points by any means necessary. Doesn't matter how beautiful you play if you lose. So I think he's definitely on the hot seat.
Man, that would be crazy. Bournemouth, unfortunate start to their season. Brighton and Liverpool, both teams also having an unfortunate games this past week. Obviously, Liverpool coming hard done by Tottenham, and Brighton looking to bounce back after that 6-1 smackdown against Villa. Two teams looking to get more points early in the season to stay higher up in the table. Interesting matchup, guys. Steven, how do you think this one ends?
I'll tell you what, I did not bet on this game at the end of our episode on the You Betcha segment because it's going to be crazy. I can't predict it. My safe bet would be a draw. Both these teams, I think, are going to come out firing. Brighton is at home. Liverpool, if I'm Jurgen Klopp, I'm throwing everything I've got, honestly, at Brighton, just trying to overwhelm them with more talent on the field like they do have. I do fancy Liverpool, I guess, thinking about it, to get the win away at Brighton. But I think it's going to be an entertaining game of football. Maybe a wild scoreline of like a 4-2 Liverpool wouldn't necessarily surprise me. But yeah, I think Klopp and the boys rebound after this one.
He could be missing some pieces. Obviously, Curtis Jones and Diego Jota out on red card suspension. Potentially, I don't know the status of Cody Gakpo.
True.
He might be a little short on that wing. Brandon, does that affect the outcome of this game, you think?
I think it definitely does. Brighton, in the last 6 meetings, they've had 2 wins and 3 draws, with Liverpool only winning 1 of them. Circle that in red marker. It's going to be a draw or a Brighton win. I'm letting you know now. Liverpool could definitely win the game. Obviously, they're great. But Brighton, man, they're very good, and they don't lose 6-1 very often, if ever. So I think De Zerbi's going to give them a kick up the backside this week in training, and hopefully they have a good European game on, was it Thursday? And come into the weekend hot. It's going to be a very exciting game.
Yeah, I'm sure Liverpool, they'll probably reintroduce Trent Alexander-Arnold and Darwin Núñez, I would think, into the starting 11. That would just seem like the most one-to-one changes. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Liverpool is going to bounce back very well. I feel like they're going to struggle against Brighton, especially going to Brighton. I think at the Amex will be a tough result for Liverpool to get anything from it. Man United and Brentford. As you may remember, Brentford beat Man United 4-0 at the beginning of last season. But the history in this matchup is won by Man United, winning 3 of the 4 matchups. When we know this, we talked about it, belabored the point. Man United are currently a mess off the field, a little bit of a mess on the field too. They're looking to bounce back after the loss to Crystal Palace, and they've had a rough result in the prior week against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Brandon, can Ten Hag get the job done at home against Brentford this go around?
I think it's going to be tough. Brentford has been on a little bit of slide themselves. I think losing or not winning the past 5 games after a really good start to the season, something like that. It's going to be really, really tough. It's going to be close. I don't know. I think this has draw written all over it, if I'm being honest. but wouldn't be surprised if Brentford left with a win. It's up in the air.
Steve, any chance for Man U?
I mean, yeah, at home, like it's Old Trafford here. Like the fact that we're having this conversation is crazy. That we're not going to spend much time on this, but it's crazy we're even talking about this. If Man United were to lose this game, it'd be losing 4 out of their last 5 games. So United, Ten Hag, Rashford, you didn't show up last game. You should probably show up this game. Hot take. I don't know. If Man United lose at home back to back match weeks, Ten Hag, I don't care who you are. Ten Hag, you're on the hot seat, losing 4 out of your last 5 games. I don't care.
No, I agree. I think if they lose, I think that conversation will begin to swirl and it will get simmering a bit under his hiney. And I think the matchup of the week to look forward to is Arsenal and Man City. A major letdown last year. Obviously, Arsenal were fighting for the title, but they really, really fell flat, bottled their matchups against them. They got wiped 4-1 and 3-1 by City. This is a new season, new opportunity. Obviously, they've had experience last year, failure. Maybe now it is time for redemption for the Gooners. Man City did just lose their first game of the season to Wolves, of all teams. But now they have to go to the Emirates and try and take on their title-hunting rivals. If anyone has an edge in this matchup, Brandon, who has it?
Ooh. It's Man City. I think that home crowd, though, is going to play a major factor. This Man City squad, there's people questioning the depth this year, and I think that's fair. I thought they had a chance to go perfect, and then, of course, they lost to Wolves. They're very, very good. I'm really interested to see how Arteta lines up. I think he has a lot of options at his disposal, so that'll be interesting. But Man City, they've done it. They've been there, like you said, 4-1, 3-1 at the end of last season when Arsenal were trying to hunt for the title. Here we are at the beginning of the season. Maybe it's different feels for Arsenal, but Man City's still that dominant force. I'm not going to go against them. I think they have the edge.
Steve?
I'll keep it very brief. Manchester City will win this game.
Man City 3-1 is my prediction on this one. At least 2 Haaland goals, if I had to guess. 1 from the spot. I'll even go that bit further. Anyways, probably won't happen. We'll move on to the Champions League. Some results from this past match week. We had AC Milan. They hosted newcomers Newcastle. A game where AC Milan were disappointed not to come away with a win at home. We don't know how they didn't score. They had 2 XG on the day. They held Newcastle to 0.28 XG. So lucky to leave a point from the San Siro Newcastle were. But they'll take that. Are we starting to see the Newcastle last year, though, as the season kind of progresses, Brandon?
I think we are. They're shoring up their defense. They're not letting in a lot of goals. They're getting goals from all over. I mean, Miguel Almiron, I think, what was it, last week? They scored 8 goals, and it was from 8 different players. Like, I think we are starting to see them cook a little bit. Watch out, because I think they're back. They're hitting that form again. They're going to be fun, especially this week against PSG.
Yeah, and PSG, Steve, they took on Dortmund. You were a little bit optimistic about Dortmund, but they didn't come away with the win. Did you take anything away from their performance, though, against PSG?
I mean, you had the controversial, was it the handball? Like, that shouldn't have been called. But, I mean, Dortmund didn't look really interested in scoring. So, I mean, that's very, like, that's a reach if I was a Dortmund fan. But no, Dortmund did not look good. PSG is a better team. They look like a better team. Dortmund looked scared. They didn't attack. They didn't seem like they were up for the challenge. They didn't seem like they were the team that almost won the Bundesliga last year. So, looked like a team that bottled it at the end of the season. And so that was telling, at least early on in their Champions League campaign. But you know, I tried to mix it up a little bit. You know, I tried to have some optimism for the yellow wall. Just didn't turn out. And yeah, PSG beat them, and they didn't even look that good.
And if I'm not mistaken, all those 4 teams are in the same group, right?
Yes, they
And
are.
so for Dortmund, even more so, not getting points is going to be massive because, you know, AC Milan, Newcastle, PSG. Those are all really tough teams, so every point is going to matter as much as they can get them. Bayern Munich, they hosted Man United. They won 4-3. Sane getting the early goal in the 28th minute with an Onana error. Gnabry in the 32nd with an assist from Musiala. Højlund got Man United back in the game with a goal in the 49th minute. Harry Kane getting his penalties as he does, the penalty merchant. Sane hitting the post in the 56th minute. And then Casemiro, Brandon, he got a goal in this one too. Mueller hitting the post in the 91st, but they finally got their fourth in the 92nd minute. Consolation goal from Casemiro in the 95th. Feelings about this one, Brandon? Were there anything that stuck out to you on the Bayern Munich side to start before Man U?
Bayern Munich, it just seemed like they were coasting. Honestly, it felt like they were in second gear. It almost felt like a training match, like a preseason game, is what it seemed like. But we've seen this from Bayern over the past couple of years, where they show up like that, even in really big games too. And I don't think that's a good thing. But they did win, put in 4 goals, even hitting the post twice. I thought they played well enough, especially early on in the Champions League campaign. Moving on to Manchester United, all the turbulence off the field, turbulence on the field slightly. I generally thought they played a decent game. Steven, I know he doesn't think so, but the statistics sort of back me up here, and I'll read a couple off for you that you'll probably be surprised to know about. The expected goals, Man U had 1.67 to Bayern's 2.3. That's pretty close, right? If you thought Bayern just completely smacked Man United around, it's not that big of a difference as far as expected goals goes. And then another one this is a really big one, big chances created. Both teams had 4, and big chances missed, 2 for Manchester United. So they were seemingly in the game. I never thought they were going to win. I think we talked about that on the pod. Never thought once they were going to win. But with all of that going on and all that being said, I still think they had a decent game. So we'll see what they can do this week. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I very much disagree. But we've talked about this in length, like we missed last week's pod, so we've just kept talking about it. But no, it was Bayern's game. Leroy Sané won man of the match without even seeming interested to play on the field. It seemed like it was absolutely wild. Musiala cut Manchester United like a steak dinner. It was absolutely wild. No, I mean, like, to be fair to your point, like, United had their chances, and when they took them, like the Casemiro goal, like, let's talk about the goals. Like, Casemiro scoring off the seat of his pants, off a deflection, sure. Bruno Fernandes throwing a free kick into the goal, basically, and it going in. Okay. And the Onana error, that's unfortunate for United. So if he saves that ball, I mean, who knows? But he didn't. But Bayern hit the post twice. It's one of those games to where the analytical fan and kind of the purist soccer fan are definitely going to go head to head, because the 2xG created, like Brandon stated, from Bayern, it looked like they could have scored, in my opinion, way more. But to that point, though, it should be illuminating for Bayern, because they did not play well. Like, I'm in no way, shape, or form am I saying that Bayern played amazing or up to their standard or what they should expect from their team.
Yeah.
And
I don't think either of them played really well.
No, they really didn't.
I agree with you.
They really didn't. Like, Bayern didn't play extremely well. It was just United's not good. Like, they're not, and they got 3 goals against you. So you do have to look at yourself in the mirror if you're Thomas Tuchel and company and say, okay, like, yeah, we won the game, and you're lucky you got 3 points instead of a 1 point. And Champions League matchup with them, but it's like, okay, like, Sane, like, give me more. If you're not gonna run 3 feet behind you and defend, you gotta run and take all your chances. You gotta lay the ball off. Like, Musiala is just, he needs more help. Sane, again, man of the match, wild. Also laziest man of the match as well. And Bayern, I think, had a couple people out as well. But anyways, they need to look at themselves in the mirror, shaping themselves up for the next week matchup against, I believe they are playing, I don't know. But listen, Champions League, it's early on. I'm not worried about Bayern. They're going to advance to the round of 16. United almost stole a point. Um, but yeah, crazy game. I've honestly never watched a game of football like that in quite some time.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Um, it's going to be interesting to see, I guess, who you guys think the title contenders are right now for Champions League. Is it going to be Bayern? Is it going to be City? If you guys had to pick a favorite real quick right now, who do y'all feel like it is, Brandon?
Ooh, it's really up in the air. I think this could be. I think it's Real Madrid, to be honest. I think it's their year. It doesn't really seem like it's going to be anybody else's. Real Madrid are that team. I think it's theirs.
Even with their performance against Union Berlin, coming away with a 90th minute winner against Berlin.
Yeah, because they can just do that to anybody, though. Like they have a history of doing that, and they show up in big moments. They're going to get through to the group stages, and then from there, just watch out because they know how to get to a final and they know how to win a final. So I think it's really theirs to win.
Steve, UCL favorite right now?
Oh man, I definitely don't see a favorite to answer your question. I would love to see a winner come out of Group F, that being PSG, Newcastle, Milan, or Dortmund. That'd be wild. That's definitely the most stacked group in the competition. But I mean, Real Madrid's Champions League royalty, and if you held a gun up to my head, that's probably the answer that I would give you. Number two, maybe being Bayern Munich. After that, I don't know. But I'm not confident in that one and two of Real Madrid and Bayern. So I wouldn't say there's a clear favorite by any means yet.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see all the reverse fixtures. We have Dortmund and AC Milan and that group of death. Newcastle and PSG and Napoli versus Real Madrid. Napoli has had a bit of a drama around them, obviously involving Victor Osimhen, the whole penalty TikTok video incident. They're going up against Real Madrid now. And just real quick, do we feel like everything that's surrounding the club and specifically Victor right now, is that going to impact their performance on the field, Brandon, you think?
I think so a little bit. I mean, I don't know if he came back into the team this past weekend because I know he wasn't even he didn't want to play. So I really have no idea. I would be pissed if I was him. I wouldn't probably want to play, even though the social media manager isn't the team, but still it makes you feel a certain way. And if you don't feel supported by the fans and all that, it's like you probably don't want to be there. So I think it's going to get in the way, and I think Real Madrid will win that game.
Steve, out of those three matchups, Dortmund, AC Milan, Newcastle, PSG, Napoli, Real Madrid, which one is the one to watch?
I mean, I think there's one answer, honestly. It's Newcastle hosting PSG. That's the answer.
Amazing.
St. James Park. That's the only game you need to definitely watch if you're having to sacrifice the others.
Yeah, Champions League back in Newcastle. Obviously, it'll be a sight to see. Those fans have been waiting decades for that to be back there. Will be interesting nonetheless. Europa League, Athens hosting Ajax. Athens are hosting them, and that who drew against the French side Marseille in their opening match, while Athens, on the other hand, upset Brighton, looked to stay atop the group early on. Marseille and Brighton play each other. They look to bounce back after the thrashing versus Villa, while Aubameyang, a familiar face, looks to continue off his two-goal performance in their opening game against Ajax. And then Freiburg and West Ham. Freiburg looking to go atop the group with the Hammers coming to town, which will no doubt be a tough feat with Kudus, who scored a brace in West Ham's opening game, Jerry Bowen and Prowse coming to town for Freiburg. Guys, anything of note for those? Brandon, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that group of Marseille, Brighton, Athens, and Ajax is absolutely amazing. If you're into the Europa League, you don't have a team in the Europa Conference League, Aston Villa. Definitely watch one of those two games. Probably the Marseille Brighton game. Very, very good soccer going to be played there. And if Brighton don't win that game, they might not be getting out of the group. So that's going to be a big game for them.
It will be. It will be. I will say, Europa Conference League, Brandon, I'm looking at Villa. You guys had a rough start. What happened in y'all's first game?
Emery cycled the squad, and maybe underestimating the opponent, our Polish opponent. But we lost 3-2, whatever. Played well the first half, second half not great. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. It was our first game in Europe in a while. I think we come back home this week, and I'm gonna let Steve pronounce the team name that we're playing. It's a Bosnian side.
Oh yes, Bosnian side, Zorinsky,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that because I would have butchered it. And hopefully we can bounce back. I think we will. We'll probably see a little bit of a cycled squad again, but more closer to our strongest squad because we really need to get a win in the Conference League.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I feel like the Conference League still has this weird reputation, amongst the big teams. But Villa, this is a side that obviously have shown that they're capable. They should be taking care of clubs like Serinsky, I feel like, with ease. So I feel like they should bounce back in this one with ease, which wraps up our European segments on the support section today and brings us over the pond to our MLS Fast Five, our last major segment where we give our 5 bets in fast order. All the playoff spots are up for grabs going into the last couple of weeks of MLS. So it is coming down to the wire. Obviously, we have Messi's Miami. They are in 13th, 4 points below the playoff line, with obviously other teams vying for home field advantage. So lots to play for, lots to see. And we're going to get started with that Inter Miami matchup versus the Chicago Fire. Steven, you first.
Oh yeah, I want to see them in the playoffs so bad. I want to see ESPN just try to talk about soccer. So I got Inter Miami over Chicago Fire 3-1 at home. Let's go.
3-1 at home. Okay, Brandon.
I don't know if you guys saw, but Messi probably won't play another game this year for Miami. I think he's out the rest of the season. But of course, it's on the hush hush because Apple TV and the MLS want to make their money and screw over a lot of people. Hey, whatever. I think Inter Miami will win 2-1.
1-1 draw. I don't know if they can get it done. They just came off that loss in the U.S. Open Cup final against Houston. I don't think their good form will return that quick without Messi. LAFC hosts Minnesota. They are 4th. Minnesota are 11th in the Western Conference. Steven, does that make any difference to you?
Yeah, no, Minnesota's fighting for playoff spots right here, trying to catch LAFC flat-footed at home. I think they could have it in their favor. If there's anything MLS that I know about, it's so hard to predict games. So I might as well go for the romantic side of me. And Minnesota winning 2-1 away at Bank of California Stadium.
Wow.
No. it'll be 3-1 LAFC.
Damn.
And not to be that guy, but it's no longer Bank of California Stadium. Anyways, it's BMO. I hate that. It's way less cool. 1-0 LASC. They just came out that loss in the Campeones Cup. I think they get a win in MLS Cup to solidify home field advantage. Vancouver, they host the number 1 seeded St. Louis. St. Louis had their haters early on. They're still atop the league. Who has this one?
Oh, yeah. St. Louis is the top of the league, and they're not moving. They're definitely out of shot of anybody else around them. Vancouver's looking to get some home field advantage, moving on to the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think St. Louis is going to come away with this one in a 2-0 victory.
2-0, okay.
St. Louis 1-0.
St. Louis won now. I will go 2-2 draw. I think Vancouver being at home, they're in that playoff spot. I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, a little bit surprising to see them up that high in the table. I think a 2-2 draw seems like a fair result for them. Montreal, also up in Canada, playing host to Houston. They are on that line right there in the playoff spot, Montreal. Steven, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, Montreal, not in the best form, conceding 7 goals, only scoring 1 goal in their last, not 3 games, not 4 games, 2 games. I don't think it's going to bode well for them against Houston. I think they're going to take the loss to the tune of a 2-1 defeat at home versus the Dynamo.
I am agreeing with that. The U.S. Open Cup champions, Houston Dynamo.
Forgive me.
They're playing really well, especially coming to the back end of the season. I think they will win. Should I say 2-1? I'll say 2-1 with you, Steve.
And we just saw this Montreal team in Atlanta, Brandon. They looked really bad, especially compared to Atlanta. I'm going to go 3-1 Houston on this one. I think they can get the job done up in Montreal.
Sorry, Montreal.
And then the all-important home field advantage spot up for grabs in the East. We have the Philadelphia Union playing host to Atlanta United. Union sit 4th. Atlanta United is 6th. I think a point separates these two teams, but a winner will jump up the table closer to that home field advantage spot. Steven, so very, very important game. A lot of eyes on this one. Who do you have?
Oh my God, I'm going crazy on this prediction. I got Atlanta United going ultra attack, like all right on the D-pad. And I got a 3-0 win away at Philadelphia.
Wow, that's pretty ambitious. That is ambitious, Brandon.
I'll say a 2-2 draw. It'll be anticlimactic in the end.
Atlanta United has always, I feel like, struggled going up to Philadelphia. I don't remember the last time we've won up there. But that being said...
This Wednesday.
Pineda's got to have the boys going. I'm going to say a 1-0 win. It's going to be a close game. 1-0 in favor of United. We need it. I am rooting them on and getting it to existence. Well, that's been MLS Fast 5. Our last true segment is You Betcha. Our last chance as amateur bettors to give our locks for the week. Definitely not betting advice, but we want to win that parlay, baby. Steven, your lock for this week is what?
Oh, yes. The most important leg goes first, and that's my pick here. I have Man City over Arsenal. It's plus 155. Man City, if you're just new to watching soccer, they're a pretty good team over the past 7-10 years. Yes, Man City's going to beat Arsenal. It's plus 155. Lock it in.
Lock it in. And Brandon, yours?
Yeah, the fact that Man City's plus 155 is very surprising because they're always in the minus. Another team that's very surprising that is in the plus is Real Madrid, plus 155 as well to beat Napoli in the Champions League, like we previewed. They are going to do that. Lock it in.
I think Newcastle and PSG will be an intriguing matchup, and PSG will be spoiling the party up in Newcastle. The Toons will not be able to handle Mbappe and company. At plus 165, I am taking PSG to get all 3 points, and I am locking it in. Well, everyone, that is it for the Supporter Section podcast. That has been another fun one. Lots of interesting debates, particularly about VAR, Champions League football, and the Premier League. Everything has been a great topic of conversation. We hope you enjoyed our time together. If you made it this far, please do leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you have not already. And do not forget, we want you guys to be involved in the sports section. So get in those comments down below. Ask us some questions. What's been your favorite kit this 23-24 season? What's the most intriguing Champions League matchup? And who are your title contenders in the Premier League? We want to hear what you guys have to say. Ask us questions. We'd love to answer in the next episode in 82. I've been Cole Carter. They've been Brandon Pasnick and Stephen Curl. Everyone, enjoy your week. Enjoy some Champions League football, the Premier League, and MLS. We will see you guys in the next one. Until then, peace out. See ya.